Welcome back to Care to CEO, the podcast that helps caregivers, everyday people, and underdogs become business owners in the care world. Today's episode is one that might literally change the way you see your future. We're talking about the business you probably never know you could own: group homes, foster care, businesses, behavioral health housing, and why this is one of the most accessible, powerful, and needed businesses out there today. Crystal's going to break it down like nobody else. Real, raw, and step by step. Welcome,
Oh my
Crystal.
goodness. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's so great to be here again. We had such a great first episode and we are moving forward and I'm really excited about where this is going and how this is going to help people. I honestly wish that I had something like this to refer to when I was starting out, but I'm glad to be a help to others.
Absolutely. I love that. You've come so far and have done so much that taking this opportunity to give back in a sense is awesome. And I'm very fortunate that I'm the one that gets to do this alongside you. So I'm very
Thank
excited about
you.
today's episode too. So I know, Crystal, for example, kind of what we were just touching on, some people may have never heard of your business model. So, what exactly is a group home or behavioral health home, and what does it actually look like on a day to day?
Okay, so not only have some people not heard of it, those who have some really bad views sometimes, or there are some misperceptions on the idea of a group home. So group homes or behavioral health homes are basically licensed residential settings where individuals who often have intellectual disabilities or mental health needs or even some behavioral challenges, well, they receive 24/7 support. And a day to day looks like providing them care with dignity and medication management, life skills coaching, daily meals, helping them with their hygiene, helping them clean their homes, helping them with social activities and doctor's visits and just trying to create a sense of family, which is why it happens in a residential setting because many of these individuals don't have that otherwise. And we don't feel like they should just be in an institution because they need more help than someone else. So the staff is there to essentially uplift them, not just supervise. And definitely, I would say to help some of them make better choices because that is many of them need as well. So yeah, I mean, that's really it in a nutshell. But I mean, and even in saying all that, a day to day can really it could be, oh my goodness, all over the place because I do this for a living. Just today, it is actually at our workshop because we have a workshop. Just giving an example, there's an issue with the heater, the heat in the building. And so being that we're on a floor that's kind of high up, the heat is rising and it's pretty hot. It's a little hotter than usual. So we just sort of, we had to just come up with a new plan as to, how we're going to handle this. The guys are hot and we just decided, hey, let's just go on an impromptu outing to a big park where one of our big local parks that has many activities that you can do there. And it turned out to be a really great time and the guys really enjoyed it. And, that's just a day to day decision that you may have to make that wasn't scheduled. So a lot of it is just that sense of being able to think on your feet or just, know what their needs are and act. So that's why I say many caregivers who do this for a living in other settings, whether it's a residential or assisted living or whatever the case, you could definitely operate your own business because you make these decisions on a regular basis anyway.
Right. And a big part of that is being able to be a decision maker. And this kind
Absolutely.
of ties into last week's episode of discussing these skills that you have that you use every day that are sometimes
Absolutely.
overlooked in terms of skills to build a business. These characteristics within yourself that you do on a regular basis that you don't realize are skills that not everyone has, or a lot of people have and don't realize that that is something that is needed to run your own business. And I know
Absolutely.
also most people tend to think you need a trust fund or a fancy degree to start a business like this. When did you realize that someone without those things, could actually do it and be a CEO?
Well, and I think I touched on this last week. We caregivers, especially those of us that are just, and I hate to use the term like the bottom, but sometimes that's how you feel and that's how people make you feel when you're a caregiver. But we're doing jobs that are very essential to these individuals' everyday lives. And I think I also, so again, in doing that every day, I realized back in my 20s, I know I could run a business doing this. But also I looked around and I just saw that gap where people needed care and not many people were showing up in the way they really need care. Especially if I worked in the nursing home setting. So there's all these people, on a floor, and it feels like, how can you really get the individualized care you need when I'm responsible for like 15 people? You know what I mean? So I figured, I think I can create a structured environment and business for myself. And I didn't come from wealth. I was a caregiver like many people, a mother. And I learned, I just stepped in there and I eventually just started. I just had to start. I asked questions, I researched, and eventually I learned how to get set up. But I really think that most people can do this. If you can work in a nursing home, if you can work as a home health aide or a DSP, as we call them in group homes, you could likely manage a business like this.
Right, those skills and just being able to manage and delegate all of those things. Like you said, you're one person taking care of potentially 15 people and they all need something from you. So just being able to manage that in itself is a big part of, I would imagine, being a CEO, because you're constantly making decisions and kind of prioritizing different things. So it definitely does, I think, tie in to that, like you said. And this type of business, why do you think that it has flown under the radar, especially in minority communities?
For one thing, and I have to keep circling back to this, is because so many people have such the wrong perception of what we do and how we do it. And so I think many people they don't want to put themselves out there to be attacked or criticized by the public, despite the fact that they probably are very passionate about what they do. But the other thing is, it's not glamorous it at all. And, I've been attacked by people for that, but it's like, it's really tough it's not glamorous on the surface at all. And it's not widely marketed to us, and systems were not designed to show people of color the blueprint. So or how to own a home care business or a healthcare business. That certainly is something I found to be true when I decided I wanted to do this. I could not find anyone willing to help me initially. I mean, years ago when I was first working in nursing homes, if you asked this question, you would almost get, ask the question of, how do you start this? You would get someone looking at you like as if they were appalled. Like, what are you asking about this for? You're just a CNA. You can't, so eventually I kept poking around and I find little tidbits of information. And then eventually I just researched it. And like I said, I got into it, and but the thing about it is we've been positioned as workers. And so we have created a blueprint, but we just don't always know that initially. While you're doing the work, you're absolutely developing the skills that you need to do this job. And probably in many cases better than those who have everything they need, all the credentials, money, everything. So, I want to say that. So we can definitely create a legacy through this work.
Absolutely. And on your day to day as an employee, doing all of those things, that's actually like the employee is the one who's running everything and doing all these things and mastering all these skills. But in a day to day environment, I would imagine you're not particularly thinking about, oh, I want to run this business. I want this to be my business, because you're just so caught in the day to day, especially in those jobs that are so demanding. It's like, I think that that's great that you were kind of able to work through that, and then also, I guess, take a step back to think like bigger picture versus just the day to day. I find that to be super inspiring. And like, let's say someone is inspired and wants to start. Can you take us back to before, and what were like 3 real things that you did to get your first home up and running?
Yes, definitely. So I think that I remember back then when I was first starting out, I started to study the state requirements. Every state has their own requirements. So make sure you find that, ask around, go online, find those state requirements, find out who you want to serve, because there's different niches as to who you want to serve. Some people may want to work with the elderly population. And now like I said, I'm pivoting into starting to work with that population as well. But I did start off working with individuals with intellectual disabilities. I found a home community made sense for me. I built relationships with county boards. I built relationships with case workers. I went to events where I knew you could meet other individuals who may need services or their families or, any of their support so that I can learn. Always put myself in a position to learn and to meet people who could help me. And so eventually, I was able to build a network, and I never stopped asking questions. I still don't stop asking questions. Actually, in May, I'm going to another healthcare convention. It's a 2-day. And, oh my goodness, because I learned so much and I meet so many home care, healthcare workers from all over the US. And I cannot believe how much information you can get at events like these and also becoming a part of associations such as home care, healthcare, how much you learn and how connected you will get. So I would say do that before you even get started, or do it as you're getting started, but it's definitely important.
Definitely having like that network and the fact that you're still learning and growing even though you already are successful and have your own business. I think that's such a great place to not only network but just to continue learning and growing for yourself. I think someone starting out, that would be a great place to start as well, because you're connecting with all these people that are able to provide you with advice. And I think that's so inspiring that you're still actively doing that, even though you're in a place where you already have built so much. And I know, mentioned the word like non-skilled care business. So can you explain what it means to run a non-skilled care business and why that's actually a huge opportunity for everyday caregivers?
Okay, non-skilled is basically referring to the fact that we don't have to be a nurse or a doctor or a counselor. And there's another one. We don't have to be considered professionals, basically, in order to do this, just like if we were CNAs or home health aides. And that's why it's really such a big opportunity for people like us, because there are likely more of us than not. You know what I mean? Because like I said, we are really that glue, I don't want to use the word first responders and insult anyone people who are first responders, but we are the people who are right there in the day-to-day activities of these individuals. And I think that's why it's such a large opportunity for us, because not having to have those years of credentials, but really your work and how long you've been doing this is your experience and becomes the blueprint to your success. So that's why I think it's just really, the opportunity is wide open in this field, because really all you have to do is be willing to learn about the people you're taking care of and provide that individualized care. If you can do that, you can have a business doing this.
Right, you are the one on the front line, so you're seeing how everything
that's
works.
The word I meant. Front line.
Front line.
We're on
You
the
said
front
first
line.
responder, and I thought
yes,
it's true. You are like the front line.
We are in a sense, but I don't want to offend anybody. Like, you're not a first.
You're on the front line. Yeah, you're right there. You're in it though. You're in the thick of it, right? And
really are.
I feel like having that hands-on, real life, raw experience with people who need that help is so much more impactful than reading things in a textbook, right? Not, of course, reading things in a textbook and getting credentialized and all of those things are super important, but that's something that can be learned. Whereas being on the front lines and going through the hands-on everyday experience is an experience that you have to physically do to understand,
Yeah, this is really where you physically apply that knowledge. Doctors, nurses, specialists really rely on us to tell them, what's going on with our individuals. So that's important. I mean, what happened in the middle of the night, because someone was there and someone had to be there with those individuals. Their sleeping patterns, their eating patterns. So you can really help them even make diagnoses. Healthcare workers and doctors and nurses make those, diagnoses and even make sure that they get the proper meds they need, because what's going on in their life on a day-to-day basis.
You're the hub of all the knowledge and all the experiences and everything. And when you did start, I know you did kind of mention on our first episode that it did kind of happen a little quickly. How long did it take you to make your first real income from this business, and what did that moment feel like for you?
In all honesty, it did not take long at all. And I actually was pretty shocked because I think that I just kind of gave myself this grace period. You know what I mean? I worked so hard to get here, and then it was like, you know what? I'm going to be patient. I know this is what I'm telling myself. Now, this is not what happened, but what I told myself is, it's probably going to be about 6 months before you even see anything yet. No, no. I would say 30 days. After getting my first individual, I started making a decent income pretty quickly because behavioral health, which is often why this is a sought after home care business, it tends to, the profit is much higher because these individuals require a lot of care. They can have some behaviorals that are a little, can be challenging for us. And so that is why it's definitely one of the most profitable home care businesses. And I think that's why many people are being attracted to this industry. Now, most certainly this industry is wide open because, like I said, there are many different niches. I mean, when you really start diving into this, you will find like, oh my goodness, I didn't even know you could do that. I didn't even know that was a thing. And I typically really find out the other industries and niches when I go to home care conventions, and I'm just shocked. And I get, all kinds of networking opportunities with people, and I make sure I get people's contacts because I'm always blown away by what I find out.
And like these conventions, I'm so curious about them. So I guess, can you talk a little bit more about the conventions? I'm curious to know like more about it.
Sure. Yeah. So I think the first actual home care, healthcare convention I went to was in Atlanta. And I did not know so many of the speakers, the different home care. I mean, and really we're still talking home care. Like, we're not talking healthcare. We're not really talking about people who have like hospitals or businesses such as that, or practices. We're talking about home care still. And the speakers were from all over Texas and Georgia, Alabama, Minnesota. And they just were, getting up and talking about what they are doing in their state and, letting us know the requirements, what these industries typically pay. And I really enjoyed that they showed real examples. Some of them actually during their PowerPoint presentations put their pay, like their pay stubs, like on there. So you can see like, yes, I'm not lying about this. And I thought it was really interesting. And it gave us the opportunity to compare what different states are doing and the requirements. And they also let us know, like, you don't have to just stay in your state. You don't have to operate. Many of them had multiple home care businesses all over. So I just was so shocked, and that just opened my mind even wider. And I was like, wow. So this next one that I'm going to, I'm really excited about this one because it's close to home. It's in Cleveland. And so that's just right up the street, kind of 45 minutes. But I'm excited about who I'm going to meet, what I'm going to learn, because I think this one is going to be really wonderful. And I'm going to learn some really life-changing information. And who knows, what I'll pivot into after that, because I honestly didn't think I would pivot into the aging population until I got back from Atlanta. So, yeah.
Wow, no, it sounds like that's such an inspiring place to be. And there's so many options, like you said, that you probably would have never even particularly thought about. And I think, kind of going back to what you said earlier, that would be a good place for someone who's considering getting into this to kind of go there and get a feel for it and get ideas. Can anyone go to these conventions, or is it?
Oh, absolutely. You don't have to. This is typically for people who are either already in industry or they're looking to get in, because you're getting all the knowledge. I mean, they don't hold back anything. And that's what I enjoy. So there's no gatekeeping at all. I actually was so shocked at how much information they gave out about their personal businesses, because they really wanted people to win. They gave us their personal information. I mean, I have people's cell phone numbers, and I can still just call. And even if I have a question and they're not worried about competitive us competing against each other or anything like that. So I thought that was wonderful because that's how I am.
That is wonderful. I guess it's that passion and that natural going back to being a caregiver and what that entails just as a person. And you have to be selfless. So that does make sense. I would expect some things to be a little bit gate kept, but I guess if you really think about it on that level, everyone is caring and everyone wants to see people do good. And I love that it's not a competition, especially when people are from different, like you said, have different niches and they're from different states. It just sounds like a really good collaborative place for everyone.
Absolutely. Well, I was going to say also, I think there's a confidence that we have within ourselves that says, what's for me is for me. And what's for you is for you. So there's no reason for us to not share information because I'm going to get what I'm supposed to have. As long as I'm doing what I'm supposed to do out here, I'm going to get what God has for me and you're going to get what God has for you. And that's that.
And you're doing, yes, it's a business, but you're also putting so much good out into the world and into the universe. You're being a selfless person, and it's great that you're able to create a business off who you are. And that I know we spoke about that last episode too, but I really think that that's a very powerful point of your success as well is like you're doing good and you're helping people and you found a way to make who you are part of your life and your business. So I think that that's
About
really
not
really
like
cool.
being a
And
gatekeeper.
I know you said that it is
Is
a
that,
perfect business for people who've been caregivers their whole life. So
oh,
we've touched on it, but can you go into a little bit more about why you believe that so strongly? About how it's like a perfect business for people who have been caregivers their whole life, and why do you believe that?
because it comes naturally to you. I mean, when you're a caregiver, it just comes naturally to you. It just makes sense to do what's needed to help someone have the best quality of life. And it's really not something you can teach. Quite honestly, it doesn't matter what someone's credentials are. You really can't teach good bedside manner. You can't teach care. So really caring in your heart, you can't teach it. So you really just have to have it. And that's that. And I guess for those who may don't have it, hire good people that do. Hire good people that do.
And I know some people might worry about this industry being too crowded or locked down by big providers. Is there still room for new people to succeed, do you think?
Oh my goodness, absolutely. This field is wide open and it always will be because someone every day is going to get hurt and maybe now need to be homebound. Someone every day is being born with intellectual disabilities and they're going to need a different kind of care for their whole life. And so this doesn't end, it's always going to be wide open. So we really have to just not even allow that mindset to, creep in and not let other people project that mindset onto us. There is enough for everybody. And I know there is because I get calls on a regular basis of having to turn people down. And I'm in a city where there are so many us agencies here, so many home care agencies competing for the same pool of individuals. And there's still plenty because, well, like I said before, I'm licensed in the state of Ohio. So I get calls from all over.
I think that that's such an interesting and really good point that I don't think I ever thought about in terms of it being a business that is like indefinite. It's never going to basically go away. Like it is something that is going to be a need forever. There's, like you said, people are always going to get older. People are always going to be born, with complications or things like that. So that is, I think, a really good point for someone starting out.
And people are just the way with hospitals, just like with hospitals, someone's going to get sick. Someone's going to need a doctor always, you know, and that's just how it is.
Yeah, no, that's even interesting. Like, I feel so inspired. I'm like, wow, maybe I should start my own business in
Right?
this space too.
Right. Well, yeah, we can talk about it whenever.
Exactly. I was just gonna say
Happy
there's
to
no gatekeeping
to
for
give you the
sure. I want to
information.
go to one of
And
these
as you know, I
conventions
won't
too.
be
I'm like super
gatekeeping.
intrigued by it. We might
Yeah.
have to figure that out.
Oh my goodness. Yes, I might have to have you meet me at one of them, because they're everywhere. They're in New York. Yeah, no, seriously. And I follow people on YouTube and just on other podcasts from all over, like even New York. You know what I mean? There's someone I follow from New York. Him and his mother actually own a home care agency, and I'm just, oh my goodness, they do such great work right there. So it's everywhere.
Even for those people that are listening and for those that are thinking about starting, I think that that's such a good point to motivate them. Like, this will be something that's needed forever. And I know if someone is listening right now, a single mom, a CNA, someone who's been working super long shifts and kind of dreaming of more, what would you tell them about what's possible?
As someone who at some point has experienced all of that you just mentioned, from single motherhood to living in poverty, working very long shifts, I would say you're already doing the hard part, especially if you work in the home care industry or the healthcare industry. And I don't want to say, when I say hard part, I mean, it comes naturally to many of us, but you're already serving others. I mean, that is what makes us frontline, the frontline care workers for our individuals. And now it's time to not only serve others, but serve yourself and create a legacy, expand what you're already doing. You have the blueprint. So now learn this industry, learn what you need to do in your state, and just build on what you already have. And I don't think that you will be disappointed in what you'll find and the help that's going to find you, once you decide to start. And you don't need to wait for permission from anyone. Most certainly don't wait for everyone around you to support you. Just start, because your future deserves it. Your children's future deserves it. And anyone who is supposed to be attached to your journey deserves it. And that's why I decided to do it. There's a lot of people I know that were also attached to me that I want to win and deserve to win as well. And so when I think of giving up, I think of them.
That's great. It's a very good motivation for yourself to have that and have that be the force that makes you keep going. Because I'm sure it's not easy. And I'm sure, like we talked about even last episode, there were times where you may have felt overwhelmed or stressed out by everything. So I think that that's very important to have such a key motivator in mind. Yeah. And I also really love what you said about you have the blueprint. It's true. Like, if anyone who's done these jobs,
yes,
also kind of start with these jobs because you have this in you. Most people who are looking to be a CNA or to do this, it's not someone who isn't particularly someone who portrays those caregiver characteristics. Right. So I feel like you're going into these roles because you care and because you want to help.
Because you could have gone somewhere else. I mean, you could have gone somewhere else and got a job doing something else. But you were attracted to the field of caregiving, and so was I, being that it came naturally to me. So I made a business of it. And
absolutely.
And you can too.
Exactly. I know I feel inspired. I'm sure everyone listening feels inspired. I'm like, I need to do some research of my own now. And definitely you have the blueprint. You can do it. It's definitely, I think, something that is like remarkable and inspiring and I guess motivating. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. People can follow my page, Crystal Smith, on Facebook. I will be leaving the information if you wanted to book an appointment with me for potentially getting mentored. That is www.crystalandco.com. And I'm happy to work with you.
Tell me a little bit more about the mentoring aspect too, because that's part of your business, but it's not, I guess, the main component. But is that something you just tend to do separately than your business?
Well, people were coming to me so much about how to start these home care agencies such as mine. And I would just take my entire day explaining it because, like I said, I really don't want to gatekeep. But I had to eventually just put it in a process of, a course. I have an ebook. So it's like, if you want to work with me, you're going to have to book my time. And I just will mentor you through the whole process or part of the process. It really can be tailored to what a person needs. Because sometimes I've had people come to me and they're like, I'm almost there. I just had someone call recently. Now, this is one of my mentees, but she's basically at the end, and it was insurance. That's sometimes can be a big issue with what we do. A lot of insurance companies, it's hard to get insurance. So I said, oh, I got you. You contact this insurance company, you're going to be insured in 15 minutes. And she did. And she called me back like, you are such a blessing. Thank you. And now that's it. I got everything I need and I'll be up and running soon. But a person may not need the whole process. They might be like, I'm just here. I got everything. And this is this last part. Or they may need the entire hand holding process. So I do have a team and we have different some of us have different strength but I do have a team to help in every aspect, of the process of starting your home care business. Some of my younger team and members are, way, way better with helping you to get maybe your policies set up, So we all have our strengths but I can always find someone to work with you from my team to get you what you need.
That's awesome. And I could only imagine just like, even for those people who are starting out and going through the process of doing everything, I feel like something like that, like getting through insurances and those big hurdles can be enough to
just
even
make you quit.
Exactly.
Yeah. It doesn't even have to, sometimes it could be less than that because we all have so much, we're going through in our day-to-day lives and it could just be, I've seen it happen so many times. One little thing, you know what, that's the sign that I'm not supposed to do this. It's like, no, it's not. It's a sign that literally just push through this last, little hoop here and get over this last hurdle and you're good. You're in the clear. So sometimes, I'm there just to do that, just to get them over the last little hoop, because I'm telling you, there's been some things people came to me for that to them, it's a mountain. It's like, this is oh my goodness, I cannot get this done. It's impossible. And then you go to it's the same thing that happened with me, with my mentor when I was first starting. And honestly, this was a friend of mine, but she still served as my mentor because she already had an agency. And I remember the thing that I could not get done, at least in my mind, that this last little hurdle was policies. And it specifically was the vehicle policy. And it was like, they kept denying it because of like how it was worded. And I was like, oh my goodness, I don't. And then I called her and she's like, oh my goodness, it's so simple. That's all you need to do. You need to word that better. And I did, and bam, you know what I mean? That was such a mountain to me. And don't get me wrong, I was thinking about giving up because it was like, my goodness, but someone got me over that hurdle. And so I want to be that person to help get people over their hurdles because they're sometimes so small, but I know how it is when you're already going through all kinds of things. They seem like just biggest, mountain standing in your way. And so I want to let people know, like, you know what, we're going to move that mountain to the side and we're going to keep on moving, or we're going to climb it, or whatever. We're going to get through it.
Yeah, I just feel like those hurdles, I mean, even in myself, when I'm like kind of putting myself in the position to think like how I would feel if I were to try to make my own business from being a caregiver. As you know, I was previously a caregiver myself. So I just heard that insurance and policies and I got instantly stressed out. So I can understand that.
Right, right. Oh my goodness. It is. And so now, I pretty much have my own blueprint and I know I keep using that word because essentially that's what we need. We just need, a blueprint. And so I have that now. So if someone comes to me with policies, I know, what needs to go in their policies. Now they could vary from state to state, but we could work through that. And that's another reason I go to these conventions and being a part of these organizations and associations is to get help and assistance also. Because even, I get in situations where I'm like, I'm really not sure about that. And sometimes there are some really unique situations that happen that you could not even plan for. You're like, what? I never saw that coming. You know what I mean? And so sometimes you really need someone more experienced than you to help you through things. And I've had that a lot in life. So I want to now be that person for other people and still have my people. That's why I have definitely going to have me a network, of people, because they know all my people, And that's why I call them my people, because they're going to pick up that phone like, what do you need? Or just giving me some much needed positive influence or whatever the case. I'm glad that people, and I definitely encourage people to get people who are for you, who want to see you win, and who will help you win.
Right. No, that makes so much sense. And I think that that is definitely super important, and that can be the make or break for them. So I'm sure that you're such a
Yes, it is.
inspiring and helpful voice to so many people that maybe like their wits end or might be thinking about giving up. And like I feel like your mentorship and like you said, like the way you even outline things in terms of like having your own blueprint and all these things are such key elements for
Right.
people that are trying to start out, or even people who are
Yeah.
already started. There's probably things that come up on a day to
Yeah.
day, like you said, that you could never plan for. So I think that that's great that you offer that as
No.
well.
And being relatable to so many people, because again, I know what it is to have been on Section 8 or a single mother. So, people don't have to have that idea. And mind you, I'm also a councilwoman. You know what I mean? So I'm also in politics. So being able to have access to someone that could be so relatable and accessible, who otherwise you may think is like, oh my gosh, you could never. But I want people to know that you could absolutely attain your goals if you work, through it and work for it, and you work hard enough for it and you're passionate, because I have been through quite a bit, you know what I mean? And I'm still standing, and I've used all of those pitfalls in my life to just prepare me and position me for success. So that's what I want to help other people do. Just kind of take your pain and take some of the challenges you've been through and really just use it as experience to do better and harness all those things to create success for yourself, because you can.
I am in such awe of you because I don't know how you do it all. A councilwoman, CEO, mom of multiple kids. You said how many kids do you have? 5?
I, I gave birth to 5. And then, like I said, my husband has 3 from his first marriage. So I have 3 stepchildren. Yeah. So there's
There's
8.
more.
Yeah, there's 8 there. And
Oh
yeah,
my God. That
yeah,
is wild. Councilwoman, CEO, mom, stepmom. Like, I don't know
yes.
how you do it all.
I
You're
don't either. And
incredible.
right now, running for reelection, and it is a tough campaign. This has been a lot.
Absolutely. Well,
So
and with all of your busy scheduling and events and work and life and all of that, thank you so much for making time to still talk to me and
oh
to
my
talk to
gosh,
everyone listening,
it's such
because
a pleasure.
it's
It's such a
inspiring
pleasure
to
to
say
be
the
able.
least.
Thank you. A blessing to be a blessing to other people. So I'm happy to do it, and I can't wait till we get back on next time. And it's always a pleasure speaking with you.
Absolutely. This was very, I feel like informative, and I've said inspiring so many times, but it's just like all that is coming to my mind because I don't know
I
how you do
appreciate
it
it.
all. So every time I'm struggling about something or debating in my
No, I
head whether to
appreciate
do something, I'm gonna be like, what would
it.
Crystal do? What would Crystal do? She would do it, so I'm gonna do it.
Oh, thank you.
But again,
I
thank you so
appreciate it.
much for today's episode. And we will talk next week at the next episode of Care to CEO.